Some people buy, renovate and sell property in the hope of creating the perfect lifestyle. Not today's guest. Matt Raad and his wife Liz buy, renovate and keep, although sometimes they sell, websites. And they have created the perfect lifestyle. It's a get rich quicker than you may have thought possible, episode 641 of the 14-year-old award-winning Small Business Big Marketing podcast.
Well, I said, welcome to a small business marketing show where successful small business owners share their souls to take your marketing straight to the lead. Now, here's your host, Mr. Timbo Reid.
And welcome back to your weekly dose of high-margin marketing. I'm your host, Timbo Reid, and I have an insatiable curiosity for uncovering marketing ideas that help businesses just like yours to grow. I do that through weekly in-depth conversations with successful business founders that have walked the path before us. You, infinitely more importantly, are a motivated business owner, ready to crank out some great marketing to build that beautiful business of yours into the empire it absolutely deserves to be. As per usual, team, there's marketing GOLD dripping from the ceiling over here at Small Business Big Marketing's HQ. So let's get stuck right in. Matt Raad, along with his wife Liz, is regarded as Australia's leading expert in creating highly profitable website portfolios with high margins and low overheads. Who doesn't want a bit of that? In fact, they were one of the first in the world to buy and renovate a portfolio of websites worth millions of dollars, a strategy they now teach beginners to reach 6, even 7-figure incomes. Whether you're looking at adding an additional stream of income to an existing business, or you'd love a side hustle, or maybe you just want to improve the value of your business's website, then you're going to love what Matt has to share, including why he prefers online real estate to bricks and mortar as a way of increasing wealth, why he focuses solely on content websites and not other types of digital assets like e-commerce or apps. He also shares some great case studies, real-life case studies of him and his students showing us what's possible. Plus, I drill him hard, well, politely of course, on a number of limiting beliefs and elephants in the room that I felt needed addressing in order for you and I to come to terms with what seems like a dream business in these crazy times. So open your mind and your notebook as Matt shares a very modern business idea. Oh, and a quick word of warning. If at any time during this interview you find yourself getting super excited, and I reckon you will, then feel free to head over to ebusinessinstitute.com.au/Timbo, where you'll find the details of Matt's digital investor course. I bought it myself and it is absolutely incredible. And if you use that link to buy it, ebusinessinstitute.com.au/Timbo, Matt will generously include an extra 50-minute module titled Secrets of the World's Best Website Investors. And it's excellent, trust me. Alrighty, here's Matt explaining how he went from studying zoology to buying, renovating, and selling websites. Matt Raad, finally, welcome to the Small Business Big Marketing podcast.
Thanks so much, Tim, for having me on. I'm really excited about this. We got a lot of cool and insightful things to share with your listeners, I think.
We've got a lot of ground to cover, brother. A lot of ground to cover. Now, I love a good career progression as much as the next bloke. How did you and your wife, Liz, go from being zoologists to buying, renovating, and selling websites?
I mean, to us, it was easy, but yeah, our journey has been fascinating. We've always been fascinated by business. I think from day one, when we got into our first business, we were hooked. And basically, we've just taken it from there through to the natural progression of buying and selling websites, which is what we're going to talk about on today's webinar.
Just in case you didn't know, Matt, this is a podcast.
This is a podcast. Yeah, true.
Love it.
I'm so used to teaching people. See,
you are. But being a zoologist, Matt, there was not a lot of business in being a zoologist. So can you remember the moment you and Liz, childhood sweethearts? Both doing zoology. Can you remember the moment where you've both looked at each other lovingly and gone, darling, I think we'll do websites, not animals?
Yeah, well, wasn't quite that progression. So we've been out of uni for 30 odd years, and we both grew up on farms. This is important because what actually drove us, both of us, when we got together, we realized we both shared similar vision for our lives. And it actually came down to mindset. Our number one value we realized was freedom. And for me, I grew up quite poor and always as a little kid had this fascination for money, and I wanted to be rich, unlike the rest of my family. We knew no rich people, we knew no millionaires, but for some reason, I don't know where it came from, but I had this driving desire to be rich, and I think it was related to this desire for freedom. Liz, on the other hand, just wanted freedom in life, freedom of time to do whatever she wanted. So I had this burning desire the other thing, ever since I was a kid, I wanted to be able to, it's like magic, Tim, to be able to make money out of thin air. So as a kid, I used to trade toys and stuff.
Alchemy.
Our son does that now too. But literally, because I had no money to start with, right, I wanted to make lots of money out of thin air. And so when we did zoology, we realized that's the opposite of what we're going to want, because the joke is you are wanting to go back to the country, live in the country, and you think a zoologist, that's what you'd be doing, right? But it's total opposite. You've got to work in labs and things like that. So we got into our first business with the help of family, as you do. It's a little crappy manufacturing business. And I say that, and what happened was we made a big mistake. We knew nothing about business. And we just took this massive punt. We borrowed money and all that sort of stuff. We had nothing to lose. We're a young couple. And literally two things happened. One was within about 24 hours, I realized this is what I want to do in life. I was addicted. Like straight away, I'm looking through it going, okay, this is super cool. What the hell do we do here? And then within about a week, we realized problem number two, or the biggest problem, but also the life-saving thing, and why we're here today, is we realize we're in a lot of trouble here because we don't know what we're doing and this business is going backwards.
Right.
The accountant that was meant to give us advice just totally messed it up, knew nothing about due diligence. And by the way, no disrespect to accountants, but that's not their job. And I've found that to be the case over the years. Mm-hmm. And so we're to this day very, very passionate about teaching beginners to get due diligence right on buying any kind of business. So actual career, you're asking me how to go from zoology to buying and selling websites. Well, there's a massive chunk in the middle there where we bought and sold traditional bricks and mortar businesses, typically manufacturing or wholesale import businesses. And we got so good at it that we started doing it at a professional level as business brokers and mergers and acquisitions experts. So we were lucky enough to work with some very high net worths back in Sydney, and we would help them buy businesses with what's called EBITs, which is net profit, anywhere from $1 million to $5 million. That was our specialty. So we were doing deals from $1 million to $20 million and buying and selling. Back then, it was wholesale import businesses and manufacturing businesses because of our background of doing that.
So, Matt, how did you narrow that down into now you are buying, renovating and selling websites? You just slowly drilling down to something that really floated your boat.
Well, so over the years, we loved business so much. We just like sponges. We just learned everything, went to all the courses. We'd listen to, if I wish your podcast was around, we focused on marketing. That's really interesting. And both of us realized to turn around a business, the number one skill we had to get was sales and marketing. And luckily we learned that off some mentors and we just totally taught ourselves how to sell. But then to answer your question, when this was around the GFC, it was getting tough in the New South Wales economy, and we'd sold all our businesses by then. Plus, we were helping do some of these big business deals in Sydney, and we realised there's got to be a better way. And we started watching this thing called the internet. So the internet came along, the late 90s,
yeah,
and we realised you can make money online, but it's a lot easier than bricks and mortar businesses. So as young entrepreneurs, we'd always had our money tied up in a warehouse somewhere. So all our money would feed, like Warren Buffett did, we'd compound it. So we'd always feed it back into the business. And typically in manufacturing, that's in the form of stock or physical inventory. Now, why that's important to everyone is, and also sales and marketing, that's pretty much how you drive a business, right?
Given.
But the problem with bricks and mortar businesses is it can take 10 to 20 years to get the big payoff. And we saw that through all our mentors, and we're experts at that sort of stuff. And then so when Liz first saw this thing called the internet, and she said, hey, we can make money out of thin air here, Matt. Oh, my ears pricked up. Here's my childhood dream all of a sudden. So not only have I married the woman of my dreams, all of a sudden I'm starting to realize, oh, man, now this is getting interesting.
Yeah.
So, and I know I make this sound simple. We've been doing this, we've been doing it, buying and selling businesses for 10 or 15 years already. But literally, we were like kids in a candy shop. It was so much easier with online businesses. And also, Tim, at that same time, a lot of your listeners might resonate with this, we had a young family and we wanted to reduce our stress. And, it wasn't like we've always worked from home ever since day one in business. But it was just, it's a full-on role working in mergers and acquisitions.
I've got to say, Matt, Liz, I mean, what an insight you got from Liz in the early, we're talking the late 90s, early 2000s. I mean, we all watched the internet come along and we all sort of saw it. We didn't really, most of us, the great unwashed, not including you and Liz, just saw this behemoth coming upon us, not really knowing what it was going to do. Gosh, you guys were genius to look at it way back then and realise this is a really good way of making money without the necessity of carrying stock or the weight, the literal weight of bricks and mortar. I mean, that's incredible, mate. I mean, I sort of feel a little bit blessed like that by starting my podcast sort of in the really early days when they didn't exist.
Totally.
So I know that feeling, but you've just smashed it out of the park. Incredible.
It was a natural progression when we look back at it now, because like you said, it was so much easier than a bricks and mortar business. We had the kids coming along. Liz wanted a way to work from home and build up real assets online. And so we realised, hey, we could do exactly what the turning point was. Liz first started out building a couple of websites. And back then it was really hard.
Yes.
It's way easier now. And she's very impatient. She's a real full-on go-getter. And she just one day looked at me and said, Matt, what the hell are we doing here? I'm not building websites again. I'm just going to do what we've always done. Why don't we just buy them? And we're like, well, how the hell do you do that? No one had ever bought websites back then. This was 2008, 2009. She goes, we'll just do what we've always done. We'll go door knocking. So she just started emailing people saying, hey, do you want to sell your website? Just cold call emailing people, and it works amazingly well.
Where is this Liz woman? She's a genius. She's a genius.
Yeah. And then we had to figure out how to do due diligence on websites. That was probably our big turning point as well, because no one else was doing it. And the rest is history, as they say. So, yeah, it worked phenomenally well.
Explain to us. So you've dealt in bricks and mortar. You've dealt in traditional real estate investing. You draw – I've looked at enough of your stuff online where you draw this wonderful analogy between online real estate and traditional real estate. Just give us that little sort of – that comparison for us.
Yeah, well, because one of the things, as you said, we've always, both of us had the dream to be full-time investors, right? And we read all those books, and that's kind of what we're always working towards. And so part of that journey was having a crack at investing in real estate, which we did really well in the 90s, back in all our spare money out of our business, whatever was left would go into real estate. And when we started buying and selling websites, Liz said, well, the two of us realised, it's kind of like this perfect conglomeration of buying bricks and mortar businesses, but the actual concept is more like buying real estate, because we would buy, renovate and hold for the long term. Or you can flip, but we're not into flipping. And here in Australia, most people in real estate, to make true wealth, as we all know, it's not about flipping these properties. It's just buying them, doing a quick makeover, and then just sitting on them for the cash flow and let the cash flow come in. And so really what we weren't after was, Liz would say, we're not here to re-stump the house. Like in Queensland, when you renovate, there's either a major renovation or there's just a makeover. We went for the makeovers on the websites. And that's pretty much been our strategy, even to this day. And this is what we teach now. When you're looking to buy a website, we don't want ones that need completely re-stumping or rewiring or anything like that. It's just a simple makeover, and then we start tweaking it up and fixing up. So you give it like an initial quick coat of paint, change the door handles, do all that sort of stuff. And also the other analogy is, when you think about a website asset, people think, hang on, how's that an actual asset? Well, it's actually a virtual real estate, because the domain name, if you think, that's pretty much the address in the street, and you want one in a good street. And then we buy the maybe the worst house in the best street type thing. And so then the house is the actual website that sits on that domain name. And that's the bit that we get to play with. And you got to remember, we own that. So, or if you're a listener, if you buy a website, you will own that asset. That becomes an asset. And then you can develop it. You can add more stories to it over the years.
And just add value to it as you go and increase to get more rent for it, and happy days. Yep. Matt, can you, like I sometimes do, or I'm reminded of my first podcast episode, which is absolutely atrocious, but I'm very proud of it nonetheless because I'm here today to tell the story. Can you reflect on the first website you and Liz bought, and was it an embarrassment, or was it an absolute, again, a genius move?
I've got to say it was a genius move. Honestly, to this day, I am still in awe of it. It was Liz that found it. And would you believe, back then there was no marketplaces for buying and selling websites. It did not exist.
It wasn't even a thing. I mean, it
wasn't even a thing.
You say to someone, can I buy your website? They'd look at you strangely.
Yep. Well, Liz found this one on eBay because the guy in America, it was on American eBay. And the guy didn't know how to sell his website, but he wanted the cash. It was $20,000.
Wow!
And he wanted $20,000 cash for American. So this is in the GFC. So he needed quick cash, and he just figured, I've got this asset. He was saying it was making like $1,000 a month. That's net profit, $1,000 a month. And he stuck it on eBay. And Liz was already looking around to buy these websites, okay? And she's just trying, well, where the hell do you go? So she's on forums, and we're also individually emailing people. But our very first big win was that site on eBay. We bought it. We fixed it up. Within like a month, we'd tripled the net profit on it. We're making about $3,000 a month. And then we just grew it from there over the next year to about $5,000 to $6,000 a month. We eventually got it up to about $10,000 a month, and then we sold it to a big corporate. So, but we held it for many, many years.
What category was it, Matt?
It was in the dating niche.
Oh, there you go. Pretty big back then too, I suppose, as the likes of RSVP were coming on board.
Yeah. So we literally just made money off affiliate commissions on that site. And here's a really interesting thing. You'll find this fascinating, Tim, and anyone listening. You don't even have to know how websites work, right? We're still learning at this point, right?
Yeah.
But what happened was when we looked at this site, so we suddenly realized why we love buying websites. It's way easier than buying a bricks and mortar business because you get access to this thing called Google Analytics, which tracks everything, and you can't fake it in general when you know what you're looking for. So you get a live feed, and we realized he was just sitting on this asset where there was a lot of traffic coming to this website, but it was going to a couple of internal pages. And all we did in that first week when we took it over, I remember the moment we'd just moved to Queensland. We're sitting in this house on acreage looking out, and we're going, okay, let's have some fun with this. I said to Liz, are you sure you know what you're doing here, Ted? She said, yeah, watch. And she's just a go-getter. She just says, worst thing is, Matt, we've got a backup. We can rebuild it. So all she did was she redirected the traffic from these two internal pages that were kind of hidden in the website. We just pointed it to the main offer, the main affiliate offer, and literally, bam, the money started pumping in. Like we were already making $1,000 a month off it, but over that next week to a month, like I said, the income went up to $3,000 a month. This is affiliate commissions. We did nothing more. We didn't deal with it. We didn't have to speak to a single customer.
Matt,
we did nothing.
I'm desperately wanting to get into the how-to of this. I'm not ready to just yet because I have a whole bunch of limiting beliefs and elephants in the room that I want to bring to the forefront. Having said that, a couple of things you've touched on. I just want to clarify for listeners. Flipping is simply the idea of buying and selling a website, just so we all know that, just as you would flip a house. I think it's more of an American term necessarily than Australian.
It is, yeah.
The other part of that is you've mentioned affiliate commissions. People are wondering, well, you talk about rent, guys, and these websites making money. Let's just to be clear up front, ways of websites can make money are through affiliate commissions. They are through Google AdSense, through Amazon advertising, maybe through getting sponsors by selling soft products like ebooks. Any other revenue channels that I've missed?
That's a sponsorship. But the main way we make money is by selling essentially ad space. So people always say, don't you do e-commerce? Aren't you selling physical products? No way. That's
okay, so why have you gone down the path? You're talking, you buy, renovate and sell and train others in doing the same in content websites, not e-commerce websites, not any other digital asset like an app or anything else. No. Why are you focusing on content websites? And are they just a blog or are they something bigger than that?
Essentially, they're just a blog. They're content sites. We do it for simplicity. And also, full disclosure, we have friends that have 7- and 8-figure e-commerce sites. We are just not a fan of teaching that because, Tim, we mainly teach beginners who are like us, and we only teach what we do or what we've done. So we don't know about e-commerce. Liz and I made a very, very conscious decision when we got online, and if you're a beginner, you need to hear this. We decided that physical product businesses are quite complex beasts, and we put up with it for the last 10 to 15. We did well out of it. We did all right out of it, let's just say that. But they're not an easy thing to run for most people, particularly if you're a beginner. And when we got online, we said, why the hell would we ever go back to physical inventory? I do not want my money tied up in a warehouse somewhere anymore. Those days are gone. We're ready for semi-retirement. Let's now nail it here. And all we do is, it's like my childhood dream. I'm just literally selling electrons. We are making money out of thin air. We have, and yet we still have a hugely valuable asset sitting underneath it. People go, well, how can that be valuable? Well, content sites are worth a fortune now. So we went for it for simplicity, and as luck would have it, it's a really cool way to get beginners learning how to make money online. It's way easier than e-commerce. Of course, I'm biased because that's how we've made all our money online. But literally, it's just a website asset like a real estate. It's kind of like a billboard. Maybe it's that better to think of it that way. It's like this billboard that sits on a good domain name. People come along. If they take an action, you get paid. So if they click an ad, you make money.
Not in great detail, although I'd love to go into great detail, maybe we can another time. But let's get a sense of what you are talking about. Can you give us 3 examples, without going into the depths of each example, 3 examples of a website you and Liz have bought, renovated and sold, and or, because you are now teaching this, you don't just build your own portfolio, you're teaching this. So examples of your students, whether you can give the actual website or not, it doesn't matter. Categories enough, but someone bought a website in this niche, they did this, this and this, they paid this and sold it for this. You with me?
Yep, I've got a perfect example because it's very current right now, and particularly for your listeners who are here in Australia. So we've got a lovely young couple who've been with us for many years, Nathan and Alexa, and they specialise in, and we teach one of the niches our main strategy is these content sites, particularly the gold is passion sites, if you're listening to this. So passion sites, so hobbies, sports, learning how to play guitar, photography, all that sort of stuff. So
because people are willing to spend around their passion.
Yep, and they're looking for answers. Right, so they're looking for information. So we sell what we do really online. We're here to help people. When you think about it, as the best websites that we've owned over the years are ones where we're helping people find solutions to problems. So Nathan and Alexa do this really well. They've just kind of emulated the same niches we're in, and they've just recently bought this gardening site. So you think gardening pretty boring. This was a private deal where they approached the guy here in Australia. This was an aged website, been around for 10, 15 years. He was passionate about gardening here in Australia. He just blogged his journey. He just put up this genuine content. Now, they were networking and they did the private approaching, the door knocking, send him an email, say, hey, can we have a chat about your site? Notice you haven't done much on it for quite a few years. And he said, yeah, I want to get rid of it. And he said, well, how much? They bought it off him for $400. Okay, $400. Now, that site, this month, and when we're in the middle of winter here in Australia as we're recording this, it's hitting 80,000 visitors a month, and it's making $4,000 a month now.
Okay, so over what period of time and what little tweaks did they make? Top level?
Yep. So, okay, awesome question. So this is not a get-rich-quick thing, guys. They didn't buy it for $400 and it magically
It's one of my limiting beliefs, Matt, but we'll come to that.
Yeah, I know. And I shouldn't have started out with my best website by example, which was pretty legendary. It doesn't always happen that you turn around a website in 3 weeks, right? But this one, it's a really good question, Tim. How long did it take? Probably, realistically, let's say 18 months. Now, you got to think about this. There's another element to this. Some of you, maybe $4,000 a month, not a lot of money. Just wait a minute on that one. Now, one of the things we all know, a lot of us who've been around and who are smart and been doing this for many years, you own a portfolio of those websites that are making $4,000 a month, let's just say you own 10 of those. By the way, that's what Nathan and Lexa are doing. They have a bunch of other sites. So all of a sudden now we're talking $40,000 a month. We're talking a multi-million-dollar business.
Nice.
Okay? Because that website, if it's making $4,000 a month, it's actually worth exponentially that. It's worth anywhere from $200,000 to $300,000. I want to remind you, bought for $400, and that was achieved over an 18-month period. Now, that's because they have knowledge. And basically, though, to break it down, honestly, what they've done to the website is just adding really good content and they've done the quick makeover reno. They've turned it into a really cool asset that's really useful to Australian gardeners. So now when you Google stuff here in Australia about growing grevilleas or whatever, or certain plants, that site will probably come up. When you go to it, there'll either be a Google ad on there that you will click, or there might be a review of a chainsaw. That was a keyword that I gave them because we come from that industry, the chainsaw industry and outdoor power equipment. And they've done reviews of all the top chainsaws here in Australia.
So when we talk about content, Matt, you're talking about product reviews. You're talking about...
Yes.
I mean, for years on this podcast and from stage with my keynotes, I talk about helpful marketing, the idea of identifying all the problems your prospects have that you as a business can solve. So literally that is the premise for all articles, right?
You should have a big affiliate site, Tim. So, mate, you should be making, and we're going to catch up and I'm going to teach you, like anyone listening, I've been saying to Tim, mate, this is way easier than you realise. If you've got a bit of knowledge, now the cool thing is you don't have to have knowledge. So all our students, Liz and myself included, we own websites that we know nothing about.
Okay, I find that just hold that thought because that's another sort of elephant in the room that I want to raise, and we are getting very close to them. Before we do that, by the way, my middle name's Titanic, Matt. It takes a long time to turn. But also tell me...
So that's why you're doing this interview then, Tim.
That's right.
To start that turning.
Yes.
This for yourself, is it?
Underlying agenda. No one actually is listening to this.
It's just me and you chatting away.
Give us one more. I'm sure you have some really big examples. Let's assume you have. Give us one more achievable example like you've just given us. Someone's bought a website for $400. It's now doing $4,000 a month. They've made some simple tweaks to it. Just give us another one, maybe up the stakes a little bit, but just so it's achievable.
Yep. Two really fascinating. One of them is Liz and my one, which we've owned for many years. Now, whilst we're zoologists, please don't laugh at this, but we're not experts in all things animals. Liz, years ago, bought this site about pigeon racing. We know nothing about pigeons. And I said, what the hell are you buying that for? Like pigeon racing? No one's into pigeon racing. And she goes, no, the due diligence stacks up. It's fine. We can just apply our buy, renovate, hold process to it. Easy peasy. To this day, we still own. I think it makes $1,000 a month. Cost us I think that one cost $7,000.
Wow.
It was that long ago, I've forgotten it. But okay, $1,000 a month doesn't sound a lot. You try sticking $7,000 into a bank account for a decade and see if you get that sort of a return on it.
Yes.
That's serious sum of money, and that's on pigeon racing. So that's a small one. We see those sorts of deals all the time. So our clients, what we're teaching now is there's a sweet spot in the marketplace is buying websites under $50,000. Hugely, hugely lucrative when you know what you're doing because the upside is so huge. And let me share you my favourite example. We've got lots of favourite examples, but another one like Nathan Lex's is Lisa. When she was learning our stuff, she bought a cute little site for $2,000 and she learned how to fix it up. So there's a theme going on here, Tim. We teach people to play this game safe. You always start out small, and then you build up your skills and check that this works, right? So she bought this site for $2,000. She's learning off us, and she applied content to it. That's basically, it's a content-driven strategy. She's not a writer. None of us write the articles. We all outsource that, easy peasy. She got that thing to making about $1,000 a month. Now that's impressive. But I said to her, apply your skills to this other site that you bought, which is a basic, bog-standard affiliate site in the health niche. She doesn't want me to say the exact niche because it's pretty cool what she does here. She bought this site for $2,000, applied the same process. Now, this one has taken about 5 years to give you all an idea. This is in the meantime of having other websites that she's building. She does this full time now. She's a stay-at-home mum. She got that site, bought it for $2,000, applied content to it, 2 articles a week. For those of you who are technical and want to know the exact process, that's pretty much it. because she wanted to step on accelerator. She got that to making $5,000 a month net. That's pretty impressive, but it's gone way better than that. With COVID, of course, health boom niche, the thing jumped up to $30,000 a month.
Get out.
And so, yeah, and not only that, we actually talked about it at one of our private boot camps, and it was one of the world's top website brokers. This guy sells websites in the tens of millions of dollars. And he's sitting there listening to Lisa talk about this website. And when he came on right after her, he said, hey, Lisa, in front of everyone, the whole audience, he said to Lisa, he goes, Lisa, you let me sell that thing now. Within the next 2 weeks, I'll get you $1 million. And he didn't know that it only cost her $2,000. It was just from her describing the website. And I think even Lisa nearly fell off the chair. That took a good 5 years to build that out.
Did she sell it?
No. She wants to go bigger. We're surrounded by these go-getter women like Liz in our community. No. She wants to keep that for an asset. She said it's not worth Matt. We did lots of calls after that to discuss exactly that question. It's a really good question, actually. And both her and I agreed because of her. She's comfortable in life. She's made money out of real estate and stuff. She doesn't need to sell it. And she actually has a bucket list goal to sell a website for way more than $1 million, because like you were asking, within our world, see, people don't see this, Tim. They don't realize this stuff's for real. Like simple food blogs now are selling for like $5 to $10 million, and people don't believe it's true, which I know you're going to ask about mindset. Whereas someone like Lisa, who's in our world, knows it's true. So, of course, she set the bar. She wants to do a multi-million-dollar sellout somewhere.
Well, good on her.
So that's why she's decided to keep it. And why wouldn't you? The cash flow, $30K. What are you going to do with $1 million in the bank? That's $30K a month.
The spirit of this show is to inspire my listeners and open their minds up to other things possible. I also don't want to get them so excited, lead them down a path of, this is easy. Okay. You must have.
No, it's not. It's not easy.
No, and you must have for every. I mean, I don't know. Do you know the stat for every success? I.e., bought this, got it to this, now it's earning this. That's a success, whether it's $1 more or $1,000 more. Yep. There must be a lot of failures. And
absolutely.
What
80-20 rule.
What are they? Is it 80-20? Is it okay? Well, that's significant. So, what are they getting? What are they getting wrong, the ones that fail?
No, it's not getting it wrong. What I would say is, this is an interesting one. People focus on the money. And if you're listening to this, you're probably blown away. But like you just said, what's the failure rate? And people focus on the money. I'm going to sound like a bit of a politician here, sorry, but there is no failure here, because no matter what you do to a website today, if you do it properly, regardless, you are building an asset that as long as a site hasn't gone to zero, you can probably at the very least resell it for whatever you've put into it or bought it for. Now, you can take a bit of a loss like any business. There is risk to any business. Most businesses in Australia and America fail within the first 5 years with that usual stat. I would like to say the good thing with what we get people to do, and Liz and I, you look at the pattern of Liz and I, we've never just owned one business. Even when we're buying some bricks and mortar business, we've always had a portfolio. And so we diversify, and it's exactly the same with websites. So what we say to people within your portfolio, pretty much guaranteed it's going to be the 80-20 rule. So we say try and have a goal. When you're learning, you just focus on 1 or 2 websites, but you try and build up a portfolio of, say, 10 websites. Out of those 10, so the one that we just focused on for Lisa, obviously that's in her 20%, the one that's making all the money. She's got other sites that just tick along making $50 a month or $100 a month, and she just doesn't focus on those. So if you can reduce your risk by having a portfolio, and we do this slow and steady. You don't rush out there and buy 10 websites. That'd be really stupid. You've got to learn how to do this. And similarly, you don't rush out there and buy a 6-figure website without knowing what you're doing. So you start out small and you build up your portfolio over ideally 2 to 3 year plan you would have in the back of your mind. Now we're talking creating potentially 5, 6 and 7-figure assets, just like real estate, but for way less cost that we're building gently, semi-passively over time. So for someone like yourself, Tim, so with your knowledge, you could just start this journey of building a content site, no matter what, ideally in a passion area, but it doesn't have to be. And you could have a goal that, okay, to be part of the in inverted commas, success thing is maybe I need a few sites going because not every site's going to work. And that's just the reality. And the beautiful thing, what we love about websites is it's not like our bricks and mortar days when, we're selling businesses for 500,000 up into the millions. When someone buys a bricks and mortar business, they're stuck to that one business. They rarely, now we were lucky enough, I've got to say, most of the sort of business buyers we were working with were serial entrepreneurs, some of the very famous and very successful, and they would typically own big portfolios. And that's why we love websites. To bring it back to websites, is why we love websites so much, because we can suddenly buy a portfolio of websites for $400 a website. So we can easily own 10 websites we're not risking hundreds of thousands anymore. We're buying sites under 10 grand. And so the beautiful thing with websites, if you're interested, if you're listening to this and you want to get into business and you haven't made the jump yet, I'm biased. And I'm not giving financial advice, but I would not buy a bricks and mortar business in this day and age. You're going to cost way too much money. Why the hell wouldn't you just learn on a small website?
It's really interesting to hear. I mean, it's, having said that, and I'm sure many listeners will probably agree with me, if we have made money, it's through property, because as Gen Xers, we've been pretty lucky, right?
Pretty lucky, yeah.
You buy a property, you're probably going to sell it for more than you bought it for. And, particularly anyway. So hearing what you have to say is fascinating. And I'm sure there's a lot of people leaning in to their speakers as we're talking. Now, I just want to go through, and by the way, Matt, you didn't sound overly political in that answer. It was a bit long.
Okay.
And I was wondering, which member of parliament are you representing here? But no, we got it.
Yeah.
It was well presented. Let's just go and talk about elephants in the room, limiting beliefs.
Yep.
I'm going to go through these in no particular order. When I first got your pitch, when I first looked at your stuff, on the surface, it looked a bit get rich quick. I've been, and I'm sure I'm not the first to say that. I know it's not, and you've explained now that over the course of time, you might get lucky over a month, but generally we're talking years to build something up and get it to where you want it to be. Anything you want to just say to that get rich quick thing? Because I think, just to add that, there's a lot of people in your industry that pass off as get rich quick, and they're doing you a disservice. You're not.
Well, it's very easy. See, this is a legitimate business now. We take this for granted. It's funny. We know all the top website brokers in the world. We're very well networked with all those guys, and they laugh. They come and present at our events and say, "Can't believe your audience don't believe this is for real."
Yeah,
because they're doing multi-million-dollar website deals every single day of the week, literally. Mm-hmm. And so, in terms of the get rich quick thing, unfortunately, it can look like that because literally, Tim, this sounds weird, you can get rich very quick here when you know what you're doing. So someone like Liz and I, it worked extremely well, extremely quickly, but you've got to go through that knowledge part. Like it takes a lot to learn how to build up a website, and you've got to spend time understanding that. Now, you can literally go onto one of these website broker websites, and if you've got $500,000 to spend or a couple of $100K, you can literally buy the equivalent of your six-figure income like that with it, like tomorrow. I can jump on any of those and find a website for a couple of $100,000 or 500,000 or even $1 million, because they return 30 to 50% ROI. That's significant money. Now, if you know what you're doing, you can buy that straight away. And that's where the big money's going these days. The big private equity firms now are starting to move into this industry. It's becoming
okay. To that point, my next elephant in the room, or it's actually a limiting belief, is that this boat left the shore many, many years ago. Now, stick with me here. Take that wry smile off your face, Matthew. You and Liz, you nailed it. Yep. Late 90s, early 2000s, they're in. Everyone's listening going, well, good on Matt and Liz. Weren't they clever to get the timing right? I heard about this business model, typical me, a long, long time ago from our mutual friend, James Schramko. And I've watched it play out. My original co-host on this podcast used to do some work for Flipper, which is one of the biggest marketplaces. So
cool.
I knew about this. I'm annoyed. I mean, you knew about this, but it does feel. And now you just mentioned, there's this big players getting in the market.
Totally.
There's big play. You're one of them. How can a little bloke like Timbo Reid or any of his listeners hope in June 2023 to make any of this work like it has for you?
Oh, it's getting better, Tim. Like, seriously, this is just starting. Now this industry, so to address that elephant in the room, get rich quick thing, like you mentioned Flipper, the CEO of Flipper, we know him really well, Blake. He says this all the time. This industry is just getting started because
he's got a vested interest.
I know. That's true, I suppose. I don't view it in that way because we just take this for granted. But one of the things we learn in business as entrepreneurs, if our personal entrepreneurs, they all used to say to us, just follow the big money, Matt. If you want to get rich, follow what the big money are doing. And we certainly noticed that when we started to see bricks and mortar world, all these PE firms doing what's called roll-ups, buying up all these businesses in one vertical niche. That's what we used to help them do. There's mega bucks to be made. Now, your average person can't partake of that. Here in the internet space, of course, we can.
You can.
And we're starting to see now, and especially since COVID, we've seen these big private equity firms that have come here in Australia as well. The private equity firms typically raise hundreds of millions of dollars to go out and buy businesses. Now, here's what's really, really interesting, Tim, that's happened in this world. This is our expertise. We used to work with these and help them buy businesses, and they would not buy anything less than $5 million. Nice problem to have in life, eh? Mm-hmm. So they're literally not allowed to buy a business smaller than $5 million. Now that's all changed. Because of the internet space, they know there's bargains that are sitting under 50K. Now, they won't go under $1 million in the website space, but what they want to do is get people like us to buy this happens in bricks and mortar world all the time. For the last 50 years, it's been going on. Entrepreneurial people like us come along and I guess you call it sniper it. We take these little tiny businesses, we build them up to the $1 million and we sell out to the big guys. And they're lining up for that stuff because the same reasons we're all interested in them. So coming back to your question, I think this has just started because there's so many websites out there now that are underutilized. People don't know how to make money online. What happens? After a few years, like the gardening site, they get bored with them. They just flick them. So we come along. So knowledge is money now. It is literally the knowledge economy. I know that sounds like a cliche, but seriously, if you've got the knowledge to know how to do this, you've got the knowledge for the rest of your life. That's why we're passionate about teaching, because we know it works. We can see this growing heaps more. And the stats are there. It's not just that the CEO of Flipper's got a vested interest in this. He shares all the stats, as do all the other website brokers, by the way. They all now, website sales are just going up and up and up. They're not coming down.
Matt, to your point of teaching, I'm just going to keep moving through these limiting beliefs because I want to get into a bit of the how-to before we finished. On the teaching bit, the cynic in me, and I'm not, could say that when a market gets to the point of it's overcooked, the players then move out. Some go and enjoy lying on a hammock on an island, which I'm sure you and Liz could, or you start teaching. Why have you started to teach this as opposed to just sitting in the background and continue to buy, renovate and sell content websites yourself and build your portfolio?
Because we look around, we have a lot of personal mentors who are really successful in business. They all tend to be 10 to 20 years older than Liz and I, and that's who we've personally advised as well over the years. And the one thing we've noticed is, and we've experienced this ourselves, the minute you retire, you get really bored. It lasts about a year, and most of them come back and say, well, normally it's their wives that kick them out of the house and they say, Matt, I'm sick of him moping around. You can only play so much golf. Get him a business. And so these days, we love what we do. I actually love teaching beginners. I don't even want to teach advanced people this stuff that we know. It's just a personal thing. It's my way of, I know it sounds silly, it's my way of giving back. Obviously, it's just very successful. So
you've found the freedom that you were looking for when you were studying zoology. Yeah. You've got that, and now it's time to be in service to others. That's kind of what I'm hearing there.
And that's what we do. We're angel investors for exactly the same reason. And all our mentors in angel investing, they all say the same. You get success in business, and then you get to the point where you want to give back. And one of my personal mentors who I follow a lot is Arnold Schwarzenegger as well, like just in terms of reading him. And you'd notice that's one of his like 6 steps to success. When you hit success, that's why he became a governor.
I was going to say, that makes sense.
He never took a dollar for that, and you've got to give back. And you do get to that point. It's also mentally stimulating what we do. Like, no doubt. I love teaching this stuff. We talk about it all day. It's easy.
Matt, in 2023 and beyond, how important are websites for business, given social media's popularity and only increasing?
Oh, man. People focus on social media. My number one bit of advice to people is that we've got a lovely young couple who are now influencers on Instagram, right? And they're going off with it. And my biggest concern to them is, and I'm saying this to any of you listening, same bit of advice, do not rely on your social media accounts. Make sure you are building your website, like your WordPress site or whatever. That's your actual asset. And I think it was a it was a light bulb moment for them, because I said to them, okay, you guys think you're doing really well on this in the travel influencers. What's an old guy like me who's a corporate, your big sponsor, what's the first thing they're going to do after they've looked at your Instagram? They're going to go look at your website and they want to sponsor you. Well, how do they sponsor bloody Instagram? Whereas on your website, you could have sponsored by Canon. We've helped people do this. You're sponsored by Canon photography equipment. Here's the reviews of it. Here's the ads. So my number one bit of advice is, no matter what business you are in these days, and you're telling me you get lots of leads through social media, you don't own that asset. It can be taken off you
100%.
Literally in the next 5 minutes, it could be taken off you. Whereas your website asset, that is money in the bank. And the other thing is, when you come to sell your business, they're going to look at your website, and it actually becomes a negotiating tool in a business sale, no matter what the business is, and it's very powerful. Websites are hugely, hugely valuable assets, guys.
Yes, well, it's the one thing, it's the one online asset, as you say, that us business owners can own 100% control. The algorithms of these social media platforms change all the time. You can get locked out of them for no reason. I mean, any business who puts all their eggs in the social media basket, good luck with that.
Very dangerous.
Matt, I want to keep moving, limiting beliefs. Time and skills, mate. This sounds very geeky.
Yep.
And potentially very time consuming.
No, these are semi-passive, and your average site, depends what phase it's in. If it's in a growth phase, you should be working on it probably once a week, but it's not a 9 to 5 thing. So you can work at this full time once you get good at it if you own a portfolio of sites, but just to start learning how to do this, a couple of hours a week working on a website, that's enough as you're learning it, because it's just about posting content. So not like a normal business. You do not need to be turning up 9 to 5. Now, the more time you can put into it, the quicker things are going to go and the better you're going to get. But it's not time related. It's totally disconnected from time, actually, to tell you the truth, once you know what you're doing. So we've got people that run portfolios of 7-figure websites, and I've got friends that do that. They will own 5 to 10 websites, and they might only work 2 or 3 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
They're making
good coin,
large sums of money.
What about this lack of knowledge thing? I mean, don't you need to imagine needing to understand code and all the other things that go along with it? Like I say that with a smile on my face. I'm sure you don't, but
no, those days are gone. So in terms of knowledge, though, so no coding, we don't do that. Even though Liz, the legend, she can code, because she hand built our first websites back in the day on a program called Dreamweaver, and even HTML coding, but you don't do any of that anymore. The main thing, and this is what we teach here, we're really good at it, is teaching WordPress and SEO. Now, that there is technical skills to that, but it's tends to be a lot more click and drag these days, but you need to know which bits to click and drag. So that's probably the main skill. And for us, because we're so big on content sites, we need to learn search engine optimization. It's a personal passion of mine. I absolutely love, man, don't get me talking about SEO. Like, literally be here. I
won't. I can see it on your face.
Hey, but it'll make you millions. That's the joke, though, because it's the number one skill that makes us the megabucks.
I imagine as you sort of you sharpen your sword on this of buying, renovating and selling content websites, that you're going to get to a point of building a team. So you may have a web developer, a graphic designer, an SEO expert, a content writer. This is probably outside of actually buying the website, which may or may not be expensive. This is the major expense is probably a team in the Philippines or something like that.
Ad hoc. So what we find now when we look across our community in terms of simplicity, it is most of our successful students end up typically with 2 full-time writers and an editor and a techie. So we're talking 4 people max. These are typically in other countries where the labour doesn't cost as much, so it's not a risk. It's not like here in Australia where we've got to pay people $30 to $70 an hour. Realistically, that's enough to run a sizable website business. Just to write, because you need content. You've got to be posting 1 to 2 articles a week.
You know what my next question is, don't you? Have a guess.
Well,
you've just mentioned content. You've just mentioned content writers.
Yeah.
There is. Yeah. We are now, again, just in the last probably 6 months, the internet is now inundated with content thanks to AI.
I know where you're going with
ChatGPT.
Yes.
Quality. I mean, Google want quality over quantity. Now there's just this complete onslaught. I don't know the stats, but all I can imagine is that articles that used to, a 1,000-word article that used to take half a day to write now takes 3 to 5 seconds. That's scary. Is that not a huge threat to this entire industry?
No. It's total opposite, because the lazy people are going to take the 3 to 5 second route, and the smart people who are going to make the mega bucks and the millions of dollars long term will do what we've always done. The foundations have not changed. Google is very, very clear on that, and that's the good news. This is the exciting thing. Tim, this is why this is about to boom, this industry. You watch, because think about this. It's like think of virtual art, right? So over time, everyone can see the real pictures of Mona Lisa are going to become even more valuable. It's exactly the same with websites. Real websites written by real people, like that gardening one, written by real people, real writers, is going to be like so more valuable than AI-generated content, which is just basically respun content when you think about it, because it's not even particularly original. So the cool thing is this market is actually about to change for the better. If you can suss out and find, in inverted commas, real websites, real content, it is hugely valuable. And I think my prediction is our clients who are smart and doing the individual door knocking and sniffing out we call them diamonds in the rough, the fallen angels, the websites that have been left behind, but they're real. When you read them, you know they've been written by a real person. And that's why passion sites are going to become incredibly valuable. All the brokers are saying exactly the same thing. I don't know a single person that owns a 7 or 8 figure website that is overly worried about AI generated content at this point. We're all just rubbing our hands going, cool. The lazy people will use AI-generated content. Google will penalise that in the next 12 months. It's already happening. Just won't rank. So the people that do what we've always done, which is produce real content. So people like you, Tim, you imagine your expertise online, that cannot be replaced by AI-generated content.
I really hope you're right. I mean, I've done a lot of listening on AI the last few months, particularly a couple of podcasts that have gone deep into it, interviewing leaders in the field. And I've used ChatGPT a lot.
We use it.
Just played around with it. It does scare me. It's the smartest thing I've ever come across in terms of it being able to replicate the human. And, to me, a ChatGPT articles, you can sort of see it a mile away at the moment. It's got a certain structure and a certain look and feel about it. Just with the way AI is going, it becoming sentient and being able to sort of really replicate the human. Look, I don't know. I hear what you're saying. I hope you're right.
I know I'm right. So we use chat. We in our community and with all our friends, like we geek out on this stuff, right? So this is a personal passion topic of mine, AI, and the implications for our industry. I liken it to it is actually a really, really handy tool. It's like all of a sudden we used to use an axe to cut down a tree, right? Now we've been handed a chainsaw. We can do it literally in 5 minutes, but we need to be very careful how we use it. AI, where it's working particularly well in what we do with content sites, is in the design and outlines of articles. At the end of the day, when we edit those articles to make them be more real and more human-like, it's still taking the same amount of time as when we just hire a human writer. So we've been testing it heaps for the last 6 months. And it's seriously impressive. But the fundamentals of SEO, search engine optimization, and how these content sites work will not change over the next. So it's kind of a dichotomy. So it's going to completely revolutionize what we all do online, but the fundamentals will not change a bit. And Google's come outright and said it. So years ago, Google's onto this. There was a thing called article spinners. Anyone that knows a bit about our space will remember that. Well, remember what Google did with all of those. They just slammed every single article. So Yeah, well, AI generated content now is Google is an expert, absolute expert at picking up AI generated content. They've been doing it for over a decade. They've invested way more than
So
Microsoft
just on that,
ever
Matt,
have.
and I haven't played this out in my mind completely, but as you're talking, so right now, you mentioned a gardening website before.
Yep.
I could go to Google with the question of what's the easiest way to weed my veggie patch, and Google will come back with a bunch of websites, of which there are pages on those websites that answer that question the best, and that's why they're on page one.
Yep.
That's how it works right now, right?
Brilliant. Yep.
Tomorrow, I can go to ChatGPT and say, "Hey, ChatGPT, what's the best way to weed my veggie patch?" And I'm not getting a website. I am getting instructions. So how does that impact the importance of a website?
So you've got to be careful of human bias here to small numbers versus large numbers. The volume of searches out there are unfathomable to the human mind. Mm-hmm. So people would worry about when cookie blockers came in, ad blockers, and changes to the Google search, like this thing called snippets, when Google's about to make changes to that. And people always panic and worry. Understandably, logically, it makes sense that, hey, the AI-generated search will come up. There's so much more that happens online. There is so much volume. You can still make money. Most of our websites, they're not on page 1 of Google, and we make a fortune. They're on page 5 and 6. People find it unbelievable. Even we did. We didn't realize just how big the internet is. Now, there's, 3 billion searches every day or every minute or something in whatever. It's just unfathomable. So there's always a way to make money, particularly in passion niches where people are looking for answers. And you've got to be very, very careful of buying into the hype that this, the AI is going to overtake all the knowledge out there, because you've got to think about this as well. How does Google make most of its money?
Advertising.
Still to this, 74% of its revenues come from advertising. Mm-hmm. There is not a hope in hell they're going to give away 1 cent of that to Microsoft, right? And they have a vested interest, and they have, whether Google likes it or not, they have a symbiotic relationship with us content producers. They need high quality content to rank in Google that's real, that answers the user search query. They can't just send it all to an AI-generated answer. So Google is working on that right now. You watch how they roll out what's happening in search. It's not going to happen overnight. It's going to happen over the next 12 to 18 months, and it's addressing that very issue that you've just said. But, Tim, think about this. Coming back to, this, people worry about the logic of what that argument sounds like. Since ChatGPT's been released, you would think everyone would go to Microsoft, to Bing, and find their answers. Well, Microsoft Bing traffic has reduced in the last 6 months, and Google search traffic has increased. Like, we're talking about 1%. So Google still owns 93% of all search traffic. Bing's actually gone down. Humans are not using that AI-generated search just yet. Now, that can obviously change. But the other thing too is, just understand, when people go looking for answers, they're often looking more, they want to go deeper than just surface level. They're looking around the whole website. If I want to know the best chainsaw to buy, I'm not going to just go off something that's sitting on the front page of Google and go, oh, yeah, I'll buy that still because, ChatGPT tells me it's the best one. Hang on a minute. Who's writing this? I want to look at the website. I want to see how they're using it, how they reviewed it. I want to know the full story. I'm about to spend $500 a year. Yeah. So those sorts of sites are still going to exist. So we will definitely need to adapt our strategy. But my prediction is there's always going to be a way to make money with websites. They're legitimate business. It's like people always panic about bricks and mortar business. Bricks and mortar business has been around since Roman times or earlier. You buy and sell them for the last couple of thousand years. It's going to be exactly the same. Websites are legitimate businesses. There's always, always, always a way to make money off them, no matter what happens out there.
Matt, you have a business, ebusinessinstitute.com.au. If people go to /Timbo on that, they'll see a bunch of different ways people can work with you and Liz.
Yep.
There's a bunch of exclusive bonuses people will find there to make your journey into this space just that little bit easier and more enjoyable. Just to finish, Matt, so you are teaching this. You're teaching everything we've spoken about on this chat. What else? Because you've got more than that's the digital investors course, I think you call it.
Yep.
What else are you teaching?
We have how to build websites, because that's a huge part. So everyone hears this sort of stuff. Hey, it's really sexy to go out and buy a website and start generating instant income and stuff. But really what we've discovered over the years, if I can give one bit of advice, is, and it's a key digital skill I think you need for yourself anyway in the future, is learn how to build a website and build it properly so that it converts and that it can rank in Google. And it's even more important in this day and age. So we have a program called the Web Dev Accelerate program, and we teach people that, because what we noticed was when you know how to build a website, you're heaps better at doing due diligence when it comes to buying a website, because you know what goes into it. It's not a walk in the park to build a website or to build it over time, and you understand the value of the underlying asset that you might be doing. So that's the other main course that we teach.
Is a little bit of knowledge dangerous?
My gut feel is, yes, it is, but really, I'm just super excited. If people are interested in it now, a little bit of knowledge is better than nothing, like far out.
I notice a lot of your students have started, if they haven't got the cash flow to go out and buy a website themselves, they've started these little mini agencies where they're helping local businesses.
That's the other strategy we teach. Sorry.
Yeah,
yes.
That's clever.
Yeah.
That's clever.
Yeah, and that's worked really well. So we train a lot of people who are burnt out from their jobs. They typically, most of our audience are probably in their 40, 50 plus. Yeah. But typically you'll notice on our, other than our Instagrammers, most of us have kids and are a bit burnt out, and that's who we love helping. So they're typically high achievers, but they're burnt out in their corporate role. And so one of the ways that we found has worked really well, even for beginners, is to start a little mini digital agency, because you're earning while you learn, and it means they can do that part-time and transition out of their careers, and because that's giving you the basic skills you need to buy a significant portfolio of websites.
Love it.
So yes, we love teaching that strategy as well.
Matt, I've thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. I hope you don't think I've been too harsh on you, but it is lovely to explore the pros and cons of an opportunity, because this really is a big opportunity. Whether you're a business owner with a website that wants to get smarter with, one of the fellows I interviewed a couple of years ago was John Warrilow, who built that beautiful book, wrote that beautiful book, Built to Sell. Yeah. And I'm just thinking about that as we're talking. So one part of the listeners may want to go off and start a business where they're buying, renovating and selling content websites. Others may have websites that, it's time to get it into a position that is not only optimal in terms of how it operates for your business, but you're building it to sell in the future. Why not? We're all sitting on an asset maybe that we didn't realize.
And that's the number one thing we've noticed, Your website's an asset, guys, and be thinking about the end game. Always be thinking about the end game, because one day you're going to exit your business, and website's going to help you do that.
Wise words, Matt Raad. ebusinessinstitute.com.au/Timbo for a bunch of exclusive goodies to get you going. Matt, thoroughly enjoyed this, brother. Thanks for sharing.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me on, Tim.
Well, there you go, team. Website buyer, renovator, seller, and portfolio creator, Matt Raad. Now, whether you're keen to find out how to add value to your existing website or you'd like an additional revenue stream, who wouldn't? Then check out ebusinessinstitute.com.au/Timbo, where you'll find the details of Matt's digital investor course. I've bought it myself and it's absolutely worth every cent. And if you purchase it through the link, that link that I just gave you, ebusinessinstitute.com.au/Timbo, then Matt will generously include an extra 50-minute module titled Secrets of the World's Best Website Investors, and that is absolute gold right there. ebusinessinstitute.com.au/Timbo. What caught your attention? I want to know. We all want to know. Give the hotline a buzz on 0480 015 150. Let me know. I may just play it on an upcoming episode, so be sure to leave your business name for a bit of gratuitous self-promotion. Righto, team, it is time for you to take action on what you've learned, because you know what? Ideas remain exactly that without action. If you'd like to support the work I do for small business and want even more of me, then check out my exclusive business owner membership over at patreon.com/marketing podcast. Membership starts at a whopping and tax-deductible $8.50 a month with no lock-ins. And if you go for the silver tier, which is $47 a month, there's a free 7-day trial. So what have you got to lose? Next week, you and I will catch up with a fellow who's started a new social network called Post.news, and he's taking on Twitter head on. Unbelievable. I can't wait for that one. If you enjoyed today's episode, please hit the subscribe button on your favourite podcast app where you'll find 640 more chats with successful business founders. A big thanks to editor Sam Heathcote for stitching the marketing gold together, and to our in-house rock star Lockie Doley for the music bed, which I love. Most importantly, though, a very, very big thanks to you for finding the time to tune in to this marketing mayhem and hopefully help grow that beautiful business of yours. May your marketing be the absolute best marketing. Bye for now.